All right, Joey, we are talking about one of our products. We've got Adrenal Advanced Essentials now and Adrenal Calm Essentials.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, tell me about these products. What is going on?
Yeah, so we've traditionally carried two products for adrenals, but now we've specialized them. Based on latest research, product information, we now do feel that we're able to target the different phases of adrenal issues.
Okay.
All right. So Adrenal Essentials is what we've carried now for a couple decades. That product is going away. Still a good product, but it contains ingredients that support the adrenals during all three phases of fatigue.
Okay.
And maybe at first, just at that statement, you'd say, "Wow, well, that sounds ideal." The issue with it is that the symptomology associated with those two things, and really its relationship to cortisol. Some of the ingredients would raise it, and some of them would lower it, and some people will get into need one or the other depending on where they are. So that's why
able to specialize a little bit more.
Exactly.
Very cool. All
exactly.
Right.
So we'll start just quickly defining stress. Stress is defined as any disturbance to the body. So that's extreme heat and cold. That's psychological stress, sleep deprivation, work overload, physical trauma, exposure to toxins in our environment. So anything that triggers our body's stress response, okay? Then the body's stress response system is the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Prolonged stress triggers the HPA axis, and it consists of three stages.
Okay.
Stage one is the alarm stage. That's stressed wired phase. Two is resistance, kind of can be viewed as more of a maintenance. Three is exhaustion. So basically you've kind of worn out that maintenance phase. That's where fatigue really sets in. So the alarm phase is typically the initial short-lived phase that's associated with the fight or flight response, characterized by elevated cortisol levels. The resistance phase is aimed at helping the body to manage stress after the initial fight or flight response is dissipated. So the adrenal hormones come into play as well here. Cortisol and DHEA is released by the adrenals as well in order to aid, in resistance. The exhaustion phase results in an imbalance of cortisol and DHEA. The symptoms of the exhaustion phase include mental and physical fatigue, nervous tension, irritability, poor memory.
So this makes complete sense. If you think about, oh my gosh, it's a tiger, there's the shock, there's the resistance of, okay, now I'm running away. And then at the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I had to run away from a tiger.
Exactly. And I think that that's one of those things that I know it's been said before, but it does need emphasized here. I think the way our bodies perceive the tiger chasing you is the way that we receive stresses at work, lots of meetings in a day. And the body, in terms of the HPA axis anyway, there are obviously other things at play related to our neurotransmitters, et cetera. But the way that main functioning, that resistance to stress, doesn't really tell the difference. I'm sure there's some difference in response, but broadly speaking, in the most general way, body doesn't know the difference, and the response and your cortisol levels are the same. But then that tiger doesn't go away. It's like you've got these tiger insults all day, and then you go home and you've got your home stuff to do. So that's, we are definitely living in a society and in a way that not the way that humans have traditionally lived.
Sure.
And we all do it, and we all have our reasons, of course, but that's really the difficulty and where we are. So cortisol is really the main, that's what we think of when we think of the stress hormone.
Yeah.
DHEA, in a nutshell, has opposing reactions to what cortisol does in the body, related to metabolism, immune functioning, and stress response. So it helps to buffer the effects of cortisol during stress. Not again during that fight or flight phase, but as you get into stage 2 and 3, that's where the DHEA balance comes into play. And what they've seen just in correlative data and evaluation is that a higher DHEA to cortisol ratio is associated with overall better health.
Okay.
So essentially stress levels and kind of being in that exhausted state and having cortisol out of balance too high compared to DHEA, when they look back at you, they can see that there are overall just less conditions, less issues with cardiovascular disease, mental health concerns, kind of a myriad of issues that have come. Now, which one's chicken or the egg kind of thing can certainly come into play. This is correlative, but just the association is definitely there.
Sure.
So cortisol increases heart rate, blood sugar levels, blood pressure, breathing rate, and muscle tension. Hence, fight or flight.
Literally primed to get away and survive.
Exactly. It's also designed, broadly speaking, to limit systems that are less necessary to survive during immediate danger. So again, like we spoke about, moments of true danger makes total sense. But when it's work, family stress, this primal type of response is overkill.
Yeah.
The HPA, again, has trouble differentiating that. So whenever you have elevated cortisol for a prolonged period of time, it's been documented, high blood pressure, not in the moment like fight or flight, but you're going to the doctors every 3 months and you have hypertension, you've been diagnosed. Blood sugar imbalances, again, over time. Reduced immune system functioning, you're more likely to get sick. Suppressed thyroid functioning, reduced muscle mass, and sleep disturbances. See an increased risk of these medical conditions, including metabolic syndrome, high cholesterol, cardiovascular disease. Also, mental and emotional health, all associated.
Man.
So DHEA, again, does help to buffer those effects. And so I know it's one of those things. DHEA is available as a supplement, has some evidence behind it that can help, but DHEA is also a precursor to male and female sex hormones. So it just gets a little complicated to just say, well, then I'm just going to supplement with DHEA. There are ways that you can kind of get to really the other end of the equation, which is cortisol, whether depending on what phase you're in, to raise or lower. And that's what we'll get to with the supplements.
Okay.
So cortisol advanced essentials. That is the old name. The new name that we are changing this to, so this is the same product if it's something you're already on, is the Adrenal Advanced Essentials. Okay, it's a combination of vitamins, adaptogenic herbs, and adrenal concentrate that help the body to balance these stress hormones, cortisol and DHEA. This is to support those who are experiencing adrenal-related fatigue due to prolonged stress. So again, those three main stages of adrenal functioning, caused by prolonged stress, controlled by HPA axis. The alarm phase, the stress wired phase is 1. 2 is the resistance, the maintenance phase, still very demanding on the body, but you're typically doing okay. 3, the exhaustion phase, when kind of prolonged fatigue can set in. So Adrenal Advanced is designed for those, again, in that fatigue burnout phase. Stage 3, more associated with the fatigue versus phase 1, where it's the wired, anxious, mentally foggy, less able to concentrate, more of that overwhelmed phase.
Seems like most people that are going to be interested in one of these products, that this is the bigger category for most modern folks, I would imagine.
I would think so. But still, you've got a lot of people dealing with just, I know what I've experienced and what we hear a lot is kind of that inability to manage stress in the sense of how you handle certain insults, so to say, or certain, difficulties that come up during the day. You say, well, typically I kind of can roll with that and figure that out and not feel so stressed. Or, boy, I kind of snapped at that person afterwards. So we'll kind of get to that one. But yeah, typically you got people coming to you after that and they're just, I'm exhausted all the time. I'm tired all the time. And not that this is the complete puzzle, but it's a good place to start relative to adrenals, especially if you can kind of trace back. Well, yeah, for a while I was feeling that everything stressed me out. And then after that, it was like, okay, but maybe a little bit of fatigue. And then now I feel like I'm tired all the time. So especially once you're talking to somebody or you understand it a little more, you can kind of trace back where this fatigue makes sense versus it being something totally unrelated.
Literally is the other half of the situation. Got it.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Right. So we'll start with the adaptogenic herbs. Rhodiola root extract is the first one. It's widely used in Europe and Asia. Helps support mood regulation, mental clarity, work performance, also the sleep cycle. This one is primarily functioning and preserving normal levels of neurotransmitters. So dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. So we're kind of going outside of the DHEA. Cortisol balance with this one, but you'll see these are very multifaceted products. So we're going maybe with a little more of the manifestation and the way you feel, how to manage it. So there was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study of 161 college students, related to tests, et cetera, the high-stress environment. So they gave, it's, again, placebo-controlled. So some got rhodiola, some got a placebo, and the rhodiola group experienced significantly less fatigue, also saw improvements in mental performance, mood stability, and also their sleep patterns.
Fantastic.
There's eleuthero root extract, widely used in China. supports memory, stress resilience, and mental and physical fatigue. So they found with this one in another double-blind placebo-controlled study, reduced heart rate in response to stressors in the eleuthero group versus the placebo group. They also found improved endurance during running. So that's where the mental and physical endurance and resistance to fatigue comes in. There's the Schisandra berry extract, widely used in China and Russia. Studies have demonstrated it increases nitric oxide, increases circulation, mildly lowers blood pressure. Also, studies have shown positive effects on learning and memory. Licorice root extract. This one's getting a little more kind of down into the science of cortisol, but it is an inhibitor of the enzyme that deactivates cortisol.
Okay.
So when you got active cortisol in your body breaks it down into cortisone. What licorice root extract does is it helps to block that enzyme, so more of it stays active. It's not necessarily helping you produce more, it's keeping more of it active. Then there's also a vitamin blend. That's just, whenever you look at a product like this, it's great to have the herbs. Those, are the main drivers. But if you're missing the fundamental pieces, such as the nutrients, then you're obviously behind the 8 ball there. So adrenal gland functioning, especially synthesis of cortisol itself, and again, we're dealing with the fatigue component here, is dependent on proper levels of vitamin B complex and vitamin C. Under stressful conditions, your body is using these up more. So they're water-soluble vitamins. So even if you're eating pretty decent, still can have some extended period of time without them on board during stressful environments. Recommended dosing on this is 2 capsules at a time. Where it does become individualized, some patients don't really experience as much afternoon fatigue. Some people just find they simply crash in the afternoon, just depending on where you are. So you can, if you find it's all day, 2 twice a day, 2 morning, 2 afternoon. If it's more of a afternoon issue, just skip the mornings. I know some people are kind of wired and ready to go in the morning and then they fade, then you're just an afternoon person. So really individualize this to you. It's not one you want to do at night due to the kind of, especially the licorice root, kind of that deactivation of cortisol component there. So you would want to do this morning and afternoon. If it's all day, just morning if you're more of a morning fatigue, or just afternoon if it's more of that crash.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that's the adrenal advanced essentials. The adrenal calm essentials, that's
Correct.
The other one?
Yes. Adrenal calm essentials. This is a new product designed to calm the adrenal response and calm those who are under high levels of stress and manifest it in symptoms of feeling wired, anxious, mentally foggy, generally just overwhelmed by daily stressors, inability to handle the stressors of the day. So we have those 3 components of the HPA axis and how it manages stress. Alarm phase. This is prolonged and extreme cortisol elevation before you move into 2. That's where adrenal calm essentials comes on. Again, that's that stressed wired area versus number 2, where you're more in the resistance or maintenance, a lot of demand on the body, versus 3, where you've got the fatigue. This is more in that, this is for that early phase.
Got it.
So adrenal calm essentials contains a blend of adaptogens, adaptogenic herbs and nutrients. This blend is designed to reduce cortisol levels, okay, and also to promote a sense of calm via effect on neurotransmitters. So first ingredient we'll discuss is L-theanine. It's a natural amino acid found abundantly in green tea, has been shown to improve stress perception, resilience, and concentration. Also increases serotonin levels, which are calming to the brain, and dopamine levels, which are generally associated with a feeling of well-being. Double-blind placebo-controlled study shows that it also increases alpha brain waves. We know a little bit less about these relative to our neurotransmitters. That those alpha brain waves promote a sense of relaxation and also increase attention. You'll see this used in ADHD also. Further, L-theanine decreases glutamate, which is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. So again, we're talking about adrenals. Why are you talking about all these neurotransmitters? This is, again, for the specific early phase of some adrenal issues and fatigue where you're wired, you're anxious a lot. That's where L-theanine comes in. Phosphatidylserine. It's a phospholipid found in high concentrations in the brain. It has been shown in studies of subjects under stress, all three phases, physical, emotional, or mental, to decrease cortisol excretion. So by decreasing that cortisol excretion, you then pull the balance back within relative to DHA and cortisol with each other, can experience less of that wired feelings, those anxious feelings.
Makes sense.
Bacopa is shown to improve memory, learning, attention, and focus. This has activity at the serotonin receptor. It's also a potent antioxidant that can dampen the longer-term effects of prolonged stress and prolonged elevated cortisol.
All right.
Ashwagandha has been shown to support mood regulation and calm while under stress. Also supports immune function, thyroid function, and regulates sleep cycle. Rhodiola, another adaptogenic herb used widely in Europe, also in Asia, supports mood regulation, mental clarity, work performance, and regulates sleep cycle. Also has been shown to preserve levels of neurotransmitters in the brain, namely serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. Eleuthero root extract, widely used in China, supports memory, stress resilience, both mental and physical fatigue. The dosing on Adrenal Calm Essentials, 2 capsules at a time, 1 to 2 times per day. This, again, knowing what you're using it for, more for that wired stress. If your mornings are crazy, make sure you get it in the mornings. If it's all day, do it 2 twice a day, morning and afternoon. If it's more as you go throughout the day where you're really feeling the stress, the day has worn you down, so to say, just take the 2 in the afternoon. So it's really up to you. Fit that in, but always 2 at a time to get the proper levels of the ingredients. And it's up to you if you're doing it morning or later in the day or both. Any
downside to taking it in the evening other than just hopefully you're not wired at night?
This you can take in the evening.
Yeah.
Because it really just depends, again, with how you're feeling. If nights you have trouble calming, it's a great thing to take in the evening. Certainly have other recommendations that are a little just more strictly neurotransmitter based. But this one you definitely can take in the evening, really just fit it into where you want to do 2 twice a day. And if it makes sense more for you in the evening versus maybe at work handling the afternoon stress, really just know that this is going to help you promote a sense of calm. So whenever you know that's needed in your day relative to what you're dealing with, go with it those times.
So how is this different from a product like Calm Day or the Calm Quick, where it's intended for an immediate effect?
Yes. So a product like Calm Day is missing ingredients like phosphatidylserine, which are trying to lower cortisol, because the reason why you may be feeling anxious or stressed may have nothing to do actually with cortisol. Bacopa, ashwagandha, rhodiola, those wouldn't be negatively impacting you if you're stressed. They would just be total overkill. Then on the other end, you're missing ingredients that are purely for calm. Like GABA, like 5-HTP. Where there is overlap is L-theanine. So again, that's a good question because there is some overlap here.
Yeah.
You want to be calm, you want to be calm, right?
Yeah.
So L-theanine is in both products because of its effect on neurotransmitters, because of it decreasing glutamate. Something like Calm Day with L-theanine, you're trying to decrease the excitatory and increase the inhibitory, the balance. Sure, that would be useful here, but there's just more at play relative to the cortisol levels.
Okay. All right. And so if I'm understanding correctly, these 2 products, they're specifically targeted for different things. There's not really a reason why you would want to take both at the same time because they counteract each other in some ways.
In some ways, yeah. I think the way that, just in researching and thinking about it, that I look at that is it is a fluid situation. Now, if you say in a given day, you're microanalyzing and, well, I was really stressed at like 10 because this happened and then I was tired at 3, you're going to go a little nuts if you're trying to, fit that into your adrenal profile and a supplement for adrenals. But at the same time, I think it's very reasonable and factual to think that there are phases even within these 3 that we talk about, a few weeks for whatever reason. And sometimes it's because maybe your sleep is a little off. So that's going to throw off the balance of DHA and cortisol. Maybe there is just a whole lot going on at home or a whole lot going on at work where you spend a few weeks feeling like you're wired all the time versus you're spending these few weeks and you feel like you've had trouble getting out of bed and trouble getting through the afternoon. So it's very reasonable to kind of have both. But what I wouldn't do is say, well, again, this morning was really stressful, so I took the calming adrenal. There's other things you can do for that are not going to have any effect on the adrenals, like a calm day, versus, hey, this period of time, I can tell there's something going on,
so you might,
and understanding
you
these
might transition from one to the other, or graduate
Yes.
from one to the other.
Yes.
But you won't be switching back and forth in the same day.
No.
Makes sense.
No. And there is a lot of controversy about what exactly adrenal fatigue is, and is it this permanent state? And I think, to me, the way I look at it is, we know the symptoms people are dealing with. We know how the HPA axis works. So whether the details of you have this official diagnosis and you take hydrocortisone and you go kind of that far, I'm kind of not speaking to or against that.
Yeah.
But you're kind of in that middle phase where you just know, man, I can't handle these stressful things. Like things that I used to just take in stride and handle and fix and deal with, I find that just beating me down. It's one after another. So, you kind of go on that end, or boy, I've been sleeping okay. I've been able to work out, but I'm just tired all the time, or every afternoon I'm crashing. You don't need to have an official diagnosis to know that maybe there's something going on with your adrenals, and maybe a supplement, something mild, can step in and see if it helps you.
That's fantastic. Joey, that is great. I'm really excited once again that we have further bifurcated and differentiated these products to better target the specific issues people are dealing with. That's super cool. If you are interested in this or any of the other wonderful products we've got, check them out on our website, askjoedimatteo.com. That's AskJoedimatteo.com.